Welcome back to the Sustainable Design Lab podcast. I'm Brodie, Vander, Dussen.
And I'm Chris Bradley.
And on this show, we sit down with the innovators and the leaders who are rethinking packaging and sustainability from the ground up. At the lab, we're not just watching innovation unfold, we're cultivating it and sharing the stories shaping a more circular future.
And today we're joined by Sigrid Svedberg from FibreStrap. Now, FibreStrap is working in a part of packaging that doesn't always get the spotlight: strapping and load containment. For laymen, that means things like zip ties. But it plays a very critical role in how products move through the supply chain. They're developing fiber-based alternatives to traditional plastic strapping, bringing sustainability into a space that historically has been very performance-driven.
In this conversation, we'll explore how FibreStrap is rethinking materials in industrial packaging, retail packaging, and beyond, what it takes to replace plastic in high-performance applications, and where fiber-based solutions are starting to show up in new and unexpected ways.
So let's get into it. Sigrid, welcome to the show.
What drew you to materials and packaging, and what led you to specifically what is now known as FibreStrap?
So I actually started my career in packaging design. And I also been working with sales and business development. And I've spent more than 20 years working closely with how packaging are designed and optimized, and our products are packed, shipped, and presented. So I have always been interested in the solution and in sort of every step of the life of the solution, from production to end use and recycling, and not only the box, the whole solution. And over time, I became more and more interested in the environmental impact, especially how much plastic is used in ways that aren't really questioned. And FibreStrap came from that realization. We saw a very specific problem, plastic zip ties, and we asked, why are we still using this single-use fossil-based plastics for something that is sometimes only used for a few minutes and then thrown away? And if they end up in nature, they will persist for 300, 400, 500, 600 years.
Wow. So you don't need to convince me. I mean, I love zip ties. I zip tie literally everything at my house. So,
oh, no.
But I do wonder, how big of a problem is this really? Like, how much of these zip ties and how much of this material is moving through retail and supply chains every day?
So we estimate that over 300 billion zip ties are produced every year. And that is a quite conservative estimate. We think it's much more. And of course, it ends up to a lot of plastic. And that is the interesting with zip ties. It's such a small product, but the impact is huge because there are so many.
Like, even the visual of that, of how many zip ties altogether in just 1 year, knowing that there's no real responsible end of life for them right now past a landfill. Man, what a powerful visual there. Can you walk us through what FibreStrap actually is, and what is it made from? How is it produced? What are we talking about here?
Sure. So I will also show you a bundle of FibreStrap. So this is, we produce them in different lengths. So if I go on the metric system, it's 200 millimeter to 780 millimeter. And for imperial system, it's 7.9 inches to 30.7 inches. So I will show you also here while I'm speaking. And I don't know if you see it. Maybe I have some. There we have it. So
yes.
The top of it is the locking head. So it is a PLA biocomposite. In the locking head, we have a very tiny piece of metal, and it's needed to secure the locking. The PLA is made from sugarcane, and it's reinforced with hemp fibers. The cord, it's paper. So it's fibers from controlled forests. We are sourcing FSC, and the product is FSC certified also. And you attach it in the same way as a plastic zip tie. So just pull it through, and then you can see that you have the strength also, like this.
So I think the design, and for those of you that are just listening and aren't seeing it, it does kind of look like the coolest plastic zip tie that you've ever seen. That's all craft and made from fiber. What do you need to prove from a performance standpoint for this to even be taken seriously as an alternative when you're working with customers who might want to use this to secure products within their packaging?
So we have designed it to meet the performance of similar plastic zip ties. And we have a tensile strength of 110 Newton. So we are on quite similar level for the standard zip ties. Then of course you have heavy duty zip ties and very different, with different properties with UV protection and things like that. But for the big part, the standard, usually used in packaging, then we are on similar level as those. And there's another cool thing, since we are using fibers also, you can see that the cord is very flexible. You can do this type of operations that I'm bending it now. So you can actually double loop it to get a very high strength if you double loop it around the product. So there's a possibility also to increase the strength with easy operations.
Well, and to increase the strength with the same, item, I think there's even a cool sustainability story even within that of ability to upgauge or upgrade your strength too, your performance. Packaging is entering a new era where sustainability is tied directly to cost, compliance, and design decisions. So we pulled together our 2026 Packaging Trends Report. It's not just trends, it's what we're actually seeing across the industry. Fiber expansion, natural polymers, refill systems, and a real shift towards more accountable, data-driven packaging. If you're trying to stay ahead of where things are going, it's a must-read. Download it for free at sustainabledesignlab.com or check the link in the show notes. With something like this, failure isn't an option when it's, tied to those retail cards on the back. How do you balance sustainability goals with the need for absolute performance?
We, of course, prefer our customers to test it because not all situations are the same. And if we compare with a plastic zip tie, they are very hygroscopic. It means that they need water and they will dry out after a while. And we have heard stories from retail that they can snap after a year because they get so brittle. So in this comparison, it's paper fibers, so it's a very strong alternative. The strength is on the same level. And we also have the tamper evident locking with this small metal piece. So it will be visible if someone has tried to open it. And it needs quite much strength also to open it if it's attached to a product.
So to me, it does kind of look like a no-brainer. But I guess one question I would have is, what's the biggest hesitation that potential customers would have when they're looking at replacing traditional zip ties with the FibreStrap?
Yeah, and the biggest hesitation is usually it's risk. Like, will this work in our process? And it's also cost. We know that plastic zip ties, they are incredibly cheap if you source them from Asia, for example. This is one question. And also if it will this slow us down, for example, in the process. But what we are seeing now, it's the PPWR. It's a new EU regulation that are upcoming. It's shifting this conversation also. And just quickly about PPWR, it is this regulation is targeting plastic in packaging and increased recyclability rate. And it's a mandatory regulation that will affect all packaging that will be placed on the European market. And it is expected to enter into force the 16th of August this year. So instead of should we change, it's more where do we start in the discussions. And small components like cable ties, they are often the easiest place to begin. It's more of a drop-in solution also if you are shifting to FibreStrap.
I think EPR regulations like the PPWR, and we also have a lot of them coming in the US in states like California and Oregon and Colorado. So I definitely see the connection there. what do you think, looking ahead 5 to 10 years, what does success look like for FibreStrap and for this category overall?
I think for FibreStrap, success would be that replacing plastic zip ties becomes standard. We're also joking a little bit internally about it, that maybe in the future people will talk about having something fiber strapped. But of course, it's success is that companies don't even question this anymore. And more broadly, I think success is when packaging is designed as a system. And even the smallest components are considered. They are not neglected as they are sometimes today as consumables. Some companies don't even keep really track on those. And I think the most important is that zip ties are small components, but with big impact, produced, also as mentioned, in billions every year.
Absolutely. And I think even continuing this look ahead from 5 to 10 years, where else do you see fiber-based materials expanding beyond what we traditionally think as packaging?
I think on all the small packaging components, I think those are really, really interesting because we have already optimized boxes, we have optimized the materials, we have optimized the logistics. So I think the next step is sort of everything around it. And I also believe that there is a lot of untapped potential that still exists. So I think it's many different material that are very interesting to look into.
I think fiber is such an exciting area, like in all the different categories of packaging that we're looking at. We're evaluating cellulose and fiber type solutions. So I think it's exciting to see how different innovative companies like FibreStrap are figuring out how to make it all work so that you can get some of the strength and performance characteristics of plastic. But I would say for packaging engineers and maybe sustainability leaders that are listening, what's the one thing that they should evaluate today if they're looking to reduce plastic in their transit packaging?
I think they should look at every small plastic component in the packaging and ask themselves the questions like, does this need to be plastic? Is there an alternative? Can we simplify the materials? And I think it's important because these are often the fastest wins and with the least disruption.
And I think that goes to a little bit of the drop-in solutions that you mentioned earlier. I think, like you said, there's a lot of categories that have optimized versions. I think it's time to start looking at some of the other categories where we felt for a long time like there's nothing out there. This is, we just got to do what we got to do and what we've always done. But I'm excited to see FibreStrap as an example of something that we should be taking a closer look. When you think of the future of packaging, what is one thing that gives you hope?
One thing that gives me hope is that companies are starting to look to the details, and that sustainability is becoming more practical, not aspirational. And in addition, also I would like to mention that collaboration across the value chain, it's stronger now than it was 5-10 years ago. So I think this collaboration is also really interesting, from material suppliers to logistics, to find better solutions.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I'm excited for a lot of this movement. It feels like there's a lot of momentum right now, which gives me hope.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much for your time. It was a great conversation, getting to learn a little bit more about FibreStrap and all the cool things that you guys are up to, and looking forward to, like I said, looking deeper into some of these categories like FibreStrap.
And I'm looking forward to replacing all of those ones at my house that are holding everything together. So as soon as they're ready for consumers, I'm a buyer.
Maybe we'll get you some sample packs.
We don't sell to the consumer market yet, but I mean, I've had so many questions about, can I have some for my garden to attach some branches and small trees and plants, maybe something for my balcony to put up some lights. So I think, the applications areas are plenty.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sigrid.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting with you and talking with you today.
Today's conversation really highlighted how much opportunity exists in packaging that we often don't look at. A lot of times when we're looking at a packaging redesign, we're focusing on like the most material or the biggest ticket that for either EPR or life cycle assessments, whatever is having like the biggest impact. We typically focus on that first for good reason. But I think that there's so much opportunity in some of the smaller pieces. And, sometimes it's not quite about reinventing the entire system as much as it is rethinking the components that maybe are the ones that we touch last.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And you're making me also think back to the Living Ink episode, because again, you're not thinking about ink. Here are the cable ties and those little containment pieces that are available or usually show up in most types of packaging.
Yeah.
And I would say what really stood out to me was the challenge of bringing sustainability and performance together at the same time, because when you're doing load containment, you absolutely need performance, and that has to be paramount. So it's a reminder that the future of packaging will be defined by the solutions that can do both. So if you have a hemp-based strap that can perform as good as plastic, why wouldn't we make the switch? And so these new solutions really need to deliver function and improve the actual outcomes.
Absolutely. We're really grateful for Sigrid for coming on and sharing her perspective and a little bit of the work that they've been doing at FibreStrap. So if you've enjoyed this conversation, please give us a follow, leave us a 5-star review, and share it with a colleague who's working in packaging or sustainability.
And if you'd like more resources, case studies, or upcoming episodes, you can find them through the Sustainable Design Lab. We're here to help. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.